Hello everyone, coming to you from the great state of Kansas, also the dry state of Kansas. We are going through, in the last 12 months, we were soaking wet last May, and really it's part of the first part of June. We were too wet, we could hardly get the crops in. The soil profile was full, it was good to have that much moisture, but then it shut off. And we didn't really get another rain until October. And so our fall crops last year, including the alfalfa, were pretty decimated and didn't get great yields. And then we planted our wheat, and it only rained a couple half-inch rains. Up until a couple weeks ago, we got an inch. But really, we've only received 2 1-inch rains since last June, and then we've gotten a few half-inch rains sprinkled in there. But you can see our alfalfa behind me. This field has not. We didn't even get a first cutting on it on this part of the field. You can just see it's just really dry. There's no moisture in the ground. It's been enough to sprout the fall crops for this year. It was enough to kind of get the wheat to where there was a stand, but we were below average yields on the wheat, and the worst crops that are suffering are the alfalfa. The grass in our yard looks terrible. I know that's not a crop, but it's very obvious that we haven't gotten rain for almost a year. Over there, the alfalfa has grown a little bit, or it's closer to the creek bottom, but I mean, everyone's prairie hay fields and brome hay that they've cut, it's making like 10% of the yield it normally does. It's pretty similar with this alfalfa that we were able to cut this alfalfa for the first cutting, but this side of the field has been really rough. So I'm going to take you around to some different places, kind of show you the effects of the drought here in Kansas. You know, a lot of people see farming and it looks like a lot of fun, and it's like living the dream, and it is, but there are certainly challenges, and we've been facing some of those challenges over the last 12 months. So the first stop is here at my parents' house. This is their yard, and as you can see, it's just pretty brown, pretty dead. Normally in May and April, and usually even into June, our grass in our yard stays pretty green, and then it looks like this maybe in August. But as of right now, this grass is really struggling, and we haven't had to mow for a while, and the trees are doing all right, but they could definitely use some water too. Here we are at one of our pasture ponds. This is normally full all the way up to where the dirt is, and it's how we water our cattle that graze on grass all summer, and all these different paddocks that we have, and we've actually been hauling water to these cattle because they can hardly drink out of. There's just barely water left here, and it's mainly slop, so they can hardly walk out in it to get a drink. So we've actually been hauling water to all of our pasture cattle, and it's a lot of work, and it's much easier when they can just drink out of a pond. You can see the pasture grass is brown, and this is mainly all growth from last year. You know, there's hardly any green grass that's grown this spring, and I was in New Zealand a few months ago with my wife, and their fields are so green. They're about as green as it can get, and Kansas can look like that, but not this year. Not this year. This is one of our bean fields, which looks amazing considering the lack of moisture that we've had. And we did get a rain right after we drilled this field, and it got a really good stand. and it still has a really good yield potential if it would rain this week. And it's just pretty remarkable that the genetics and the hybrids that the seed companies, you know, the technology they've put into these seeds, and the way they're meant to withstand drought and perform under tough conditions. You know, we've hardly had any rain in the last 12 months, and yet our crops are still holding on, even though our yards and our pastures and some of those things are really struggling. So we're thankful that we still have a chance to make some money on these fields, but we definitely need a rain soon, or all that we're going to be getting is some crop insurance.
Here we're pumping water to the cattle. We have to bring water out to them about once every 24 hours because all the ponds in the pasture are dry. There's two of them, two dry ponds right there. And the cattle, there's enough grass to put them out here, but just no water. And so we're hoping that we've had some stormy weather. We're hoping that we get a 1-inch rain doesn't quite fill the pond or get any runoff. So we're hoping for a 2 or 3 inch rain to fill these ponds so we can stop hauling out water. Charlie over there likes riding in the truck to haul out water, but it's kind of an unnecessary task. So it's something that's not on your to-do list on a wet year. So this is kind of one of the things we're doing extra this year. Those are two 500 gallon tanks that we pull behind the truck to get out here. So this is usually the biggest pond on our place. This time of year it's usually being pumped out of for water for the pivot that you can maybe see up there on the hill. So we have this pond here, and this is kind of the overflow for that pond, which is planted to Sudan right now for feed, which we do on dry years. But this is the lowest that I ever remember it, this pond, because we haven't even been able to irrigate a single bit out of it. It's just that empty. And then on the other side of the feed lot over there, there's actually a lagoon, and we usually irrigate that out too. So we have two center pivots, and then there's a fourth pond there that we can irrigate out on some years, and right now they're all basically empty. Another thing those ponds do is they usually water our cattle, but since they are dry, don't worry, the cattle are still getting water, but we just have to run it through the water district, which is actually an expense that we pay for. So it's just another cost that is added, another thing we have to do differently on a drought year. And but they're still working. The cattle just poked their heads right through there, and Bob, the water will come right up, so they're smart enough to figure that out. So every pen has a water in it, and instead of being connected to the pond water like it is most years, right now it's through water district.
A week after we filmed this video, we got 2 inches of rain in 48 hours. While it didn't fill up the ponds, it will make a huge difference for our fall crops. Many farmers around the country still need rain, and so do we, so we appreciate your prayers. Farming can be hard, and each year is a challenge. Let us know if you have any questions for us in the comments. Thanks for watching.